Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the One of One Card Show. My name is Luke, and I am your host. In this week's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the 2022 Panini Prizm WWE set, specifically by revisiting the men's rookie class. So let's begin. The 2022 Panini Prizm WWE set was Panini's first product release of their 3-year license holding WWE cards, which began with the 2022 Prizm and ended this past December of 2024 with Flawless Panini WWE. It proved to be a major shift in the pro wrestling card hobby, and hobby boxes still sell for close to $300 despite many of the bigger cards already being pulled. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the rookie class from this set. There's like 29 or so different rookies. We're going to be looking at where are they now? If they're still with WWE, where will they end up on my wrestler status scale? And how much have their gold out of tens in Black Prizm one of ones gone for on eBay and maybe some other sites, along with a few others if necessary. So before we continue, let's take a moment to go over the wrestler status scale. Number one, if they're a jobber, that means that they're basically barely ever winning. Maybe they're mostly used to make others look strong and they rarely ever get mic time. Number two, if someone's a mid-carder, they're featured on TV in some premium live events. They might occasionally win matches too and might occasionally challenge for secondary titles. Upper mid-carder, that's somebody who's regularly in competitive matches and they're oftentimes challenging for titles and they might even sometimes win gold. And lastly, main eventer or face of the division. That means that they're usually in the top of the storylines. They're sometimes chasing for the main men's championships, and they might be even main eventing premium live events. So, before we continue, let's make sure to subscribe and to the One of One Cards channel on YouTube and like this video and also follow along to the One of One Cards channel on Instagram as well. So let's begin. We're going to try to go quickly on those who have been released. The very first card, card number 4, that would be Von Wagner. Von Wagner was released in April 2024. He's now on the indie scene. He had a gold shimmer out of 3, selling for $89 in March of 2024, with the lucky envelopes selling for $34 in September 2022. Next up, we also have his gold out of 20, his gold out of 10 rather, selling for $25 in May of 2023. Next, we have Kenny Williams, card number 6. He was released in August of 2022, just around the time that the Prism set was released. Kenny Williams is apparently on the indie scene right now. He had a gold shimmer out of 3 selling for $42 in April of 2023, with several different sales hovering between $35 and $50 for the gold out of 10. Next up, we have Gable Steveson, one of the bigger names who's been released. That's card number 23. Gable Steveson was released in May of 2024 and has kind of dabbled around in many other ventures in the last like year or so. Right now, it seems as though he's pursuing grappling and MMA at the moment. His Black Prizm one of one sold for $5,000 in September 2022. We've talked about Gable Steveson in a previous episode. He has also had a gold out of 10 sell for 1,400 in September 2022. So he has some very high-end cards in the Prism set. Next up, we have Harland at card number 26. He was released in April 2022. He is currently performing in AAA as well as GLEAT, which is a Japanese association. His Black Prizm one of one sold for $200 in July of 2023. Gold Shimmer out of 3 sold for $30 a couple of years ago as well. Next up, we have Zion Quinn, who was released in April of 2024, who's currently in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Had a lucky envelopes out of 8 selling for $40 and a gold out of 10 selling for $30. Next, we have Tioman, who's released in August of 2022, who's currently in the Indies. Gold out of 10 of his sold for 29 in 2023. Next, we have Odyssey Jones, who looked like he was going to be on the main roster for a bit, but then some certain things had come out, and ended up getting released in September 2024. Who's currently in All Japan Pro Wrestling at the moment. Had some gold out of tens with some interesting sales. A high sale of $203 in September 2022, but one as low as $50 in January of 2023. So some sales kind of all over the place for Odyssey Jones. Next up, we have Guru Raj, who had a lot of different sales. Highest sale for gold out of 10 went for $147.50 in August of 2023, but some as low as $62. So just, different sales hovering around the, $50 to $150 range, one as low as even 37. He's released in April of 2024, though. Next up, we have Duke Hudson, who's currently on the Indies. He was released in January of 2025 and had a Black Prizm 1 of 1 sell for 256 in December 2022. Again, had a lot of different sales for his Prism Gold. One of the high sales being $88.86 in July of 2024. Next, we have Joseph Connors, left in late 2021 and is currently apparently still on the indie scene at the moment. Had a gold out of 10 sell for $25 in June of 2023. Next, we have Eichmann or Ikeman Jiro, who's released in September 2023. Who's currently in DDT Pro Wrestling in Japan. Had gold out of 10, sold for $85 in September 2023, but one recently in January sold for $55. Next up, we have Rampage Brown, card number 109, released in 2023, who's apparently on the Indies. Gold out of 10, sold for $34 in November 2022. Next, we have Jack Stars, released in 2022. Not much known about him after that. Um, his Black Prizm 1 of 1 sold for $375 in May of 2023 in a PSA 10, as you can see, and did have some gold out of 10s, though, selling for, under $25. Next up, we have Shanky. Shanky, who had, such a kind of a strange run in WWE. It seemed like he was being pushed for a little bit and then ended up getting saddled with a dancing gimmick that didn't really do a whole lot. Gold out of 10, selling in the, the $60 to $70 range. Released in September 2023, but yeah, did have some sales in the $60, $70 range. Next up, we have Primate, who was released in August of 2022. He might be retired at this point. Gold out of 10, selling for under $50. We have Veer Mahan. Apparently, Veer was always coming, but apparently never really got over with WWE. He made it up all the way to the main roster. Released in April 2024. Had a gold sell for almost $150 in December 2022. Next, we have Wild Boar. It's out of 10. It sold for under $11 in December 2023 after he was released in August of 2022. And now, if you're still with me, we're going to be taking a look at those who are still with WWE. We're going to go into a lot more detail about them. Uh, we're going to begin with A Kid, who is now known as Axiom, who's with the tag team Fraxium with Nathan Frazier. He's currently on the main roster on the SmackDown brand in the tag team, as we said, with Nathan Frazier. He's currently kind of like a lower mid-carder around there. They occasionally pick up wins on SmackDown, but they don't always do that. As a tag team, they haven't really done a whole lot. He appears to be pretty, solid, really good in the ring. Had some really good match on the WWE European tour in during the Road to WrestleMania, and I thought that was a pretty impressive match. But again, they haven't really been featured as much as you would think or maybe want them to be. Um, but he had a Black Prizm 1 of 1. You can see that over here in grade in SGC 8.5, selling for $256.69 back in December of 2022. And some gold selling for $86 and gold shimmer selling for $85, a couple in the last couple of years. So I think somebody who, kind of like a mid-carder at best. I don't think he's going to go beyond that. Next up, we have Lewis Howley, also known as Elton Prince from the tag team Pretty Deadly. Current status right now, they are on the main roster in the SmackDown brand, have not been featured much as of late. They're kind of jobbers. I think they're very, very entertaining. In my opinion, I don't think they're ever going to get there, but I think they have upper mid Carter type vibe to them. They kind of remind me, and I'll maybe mention again down the line. They kind of remind me in terms of how I find them to be entertaining along the lines of like early Edge and Christian with their comedic act. I found some of their videos to be quite funny. I know others maybe found them to be annoying, but I think they're pretty entertaining. Um, Now they had Lewis Howley, aka Elton Prince. Elton Prince had a Black Prizm one of one selling for a little over $280 in October of 2022 in a PSA 10. You can see lucky envelopes out of eight going for 41, and the gold shimmer going for about 40. So again, not high end cards for Elton Prince, but they look quite unbelievable. Next up, we have Braun Breaker. So where are they now? Definitely upper mid Carter, upper mid Carter on the main roster of Raw. One of the focal points of the Vision group with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed. Upper mid Carter right now, but definitely somebody who has multiple WrestleMania main events in them. Um, Now, this is an estimate. We don't know for sure, but this is the Black Prizm one of one of Braun Breaker, and it's believed that this card sold for around 20-ish thousand dollars from people who I have spoken to. So about 20-ish thousand dollars from what I've seen. Obviously, if I'm wrong, tell me what the answer is, but I'm hearing it's about $20,000. And it's sold in around 2023. But the Prism Golds of Braun Breaker also selling for high amounts of money, 1526 in July of 2024, and also $1,280 in February of 2025. Because again, if you're not going to be able to get the Black Prism 101 in Braun Breaker, gold out of 10 is probably going to be the closest thing you are going to get. Now, we have Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller is somebody who also is pretty talented. He's on the main roster right now. He's on Monday Night Raw. He's somebody who is featured quite a bit with the New Day right now. They're calling him Big G, a kind of a reference to Big E. He is kind of a jobber at the moment. He is very, very talented, very good on the mic, but he's somebody who, you would think has potential upper mid Carter type vibe to him. He can certainly cut a promo. He went one-on-one in a promo with John Cena a couple of years ago in London at Money in the Bank, but they just never seem to be pushing him at the moment. But he does have some, interesting cards. $260 for the gold shimmer out of three and 65 for the gold out of 10 in early 2023, both of those sales happening. Next up, we have Sam Stoker, also known as Kit Wilson from Pretty Deadly. Right now, he's on the main roster. I meant to put SmackDown, but he's again, if we went back to Elton Prince, kind of on the jobber end of things. Once again, I think that they do have potential upper mid Carter status, but I don't know if they're ever going to get there. But they do entertain me. I've seen them before at a house show. But they just they're good at losing, and they have some entertaining background skits and stuff with like they attempt to put on the Pretty Deadly musical and stuff. I don't know. I think there's the tag team who might deserve a little bit more of a chance. Now, we see for sales a gold out of 10, selling for as high as $51 in July of 2023. And let's now move on to Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo, who is in NXT at the moment. He's somebody who has had some success. He's won some titles in NXT. He is currently, kind of like a mid-carder. I think has potential as a mid-carder on the main roster if and when he does make it on the main roster. I think he's somebody who does, have an entertaining vibe to him. I would say that his gold out of 10 sold for $60 in November 2022. I think the person got a pretty good deal on that one. And gold shimmer out of 3 going for $85 in July of 2023. Next up, we have Julius Creed, card number 75, currently on the main roster on the Raw end of things. Um, we have Mid Carter. He's part of a tag team that's frequently featured on TV with the American Made stable. It's kind of hurting right now that Chad Gable slash maybe El Grande Americano is injured. But they're still featured on TV, and they do put on good matches. But I think they need to kind of up the game in their entertaining side. Potential, I think mid Carter. I don't know if they're going to get to main event status or upper mid Carter status. That's for sure. Um, Gold out of 10 sold for $250 in June of 2024. And this is kind of an interesting thing. It could just be a little bit of a glitch. But Black Prizm One of One sold in early April 2024 for 350, and then like a little bit later in April 2024 sold for $1,200. I don't know if that was an issue with the sale or what, but if that person was able to make a significantly greater profit on that Black Prizm One of One, they did a good job on it. Um, Now, we have Malik Blade, who's currently in Evolve. It seems as though they might have like mid Carter status in them when they eventually get to the main roster. If they do, I don't really have a lot to say about Malik Blade, but they had some almost $60 card sales in 2023 for their gold out of 10. Now, we have Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is kind of an interesting individual who's on the main roster. He right now is an upper mid Carter. He's the United States champion. He's won some big matches, even a pretty big match against against Jacob Fatu at 2025 SummerSlam. That didn't necessarily go over well with the fans, but he's somebody who has even main evented a major premium live event back in 2024 at SummerSlam. So he's somebody who is a big player in WWE. I actually think he has a lot of potential as a potential main eventer. And granted, he has already main evented matches, but one might say that he was a main eventer in SummerSlam 2024 as a means to have Roman Reigns come back and basically attack him in that match. Um, I think Solo Sikoa is somebody who is more entertaining than a lot of people want to give him credit for. I find the way in which he can be kind of sarcastic, overly confident in himself, and kind of condescending to others to be very, very funny. And he's very, he's subtly extremely funny. And he kind of reminds me of like the way that the Rock when once The Rock started to really develop a persona and a gimmick during the Attitude Era, once he started to kind of come into his own, he kind of had that similar, atmosphere to him. So I think that Solo Sikoa is going to be somebody potentially who people will look back on and be like, oh, okay, I didn't appreciate him at first, but I think he's actually a lot better than I thought he was. So he does have we can see the Black Prizm. I was unable to find out how much that Black Prizm had sold for. But his golds sold in 2022 and 2023 for between $350 to almost $430. So he does have some high-end card sales, and I would presume that that gold prism, if it were to pop up again, I think it would get closer to 750, maybe even $1,000. It's just again my speculation there. Next up, we have Dante Chen, again, somebody who I'm not too familiar with. He's currently in Evolve at the moment, and has potential mid Carter status if you were to get to the WWE main roster. Gold out of 10, selling for between 30 and $75. Now we'll move on. We also see over here lucky envelopes out of 8 in PSA 10 going for $100. Next up, we have Brutus Creed, once again of the Creed brothers. Main roster currently on Raw, I think has kind of a mid Carter status. Doesn't really get a lot of mic time, really. It does put on some good matches in tag team matches, but I think, just kind of has a mid-carder vibe to him at the moment. Cards for him, $70 in the gold shimmer out of three, and a gold out of 10 sold in May of 2025 for $100. Next up, we have Carmelo Hayes. Now, I've talked about Carmelo Hayes in some previous videos. Carmelo Hayes currently on the main roster. He's on SmackDown. He's had some, start stops when it comes to his run on the main roster. He was one of the top picks in the most recent WWE draft, and yet I feel like he's being heavily underutilized on the main roster. Um, he right now is kind of a mid-carder. It looks like he is, he's in a tag team right now with the Miz, and it looks like one of them is eventually going to turn on the other. It's probably going to be Carmelo Hayes getting very, very frustrated and eventually turning on the Miz to go out on his own with the Mellow Don't Miz tag team. I think he is somebody who really has it all. I think he's somebody who is a potential main eventer, but I just don't understand why WWE is waiting so long to actually push him in the way that he deserves. He has had some big sales with his Black Prizm one of one. It sold for $1,400 in December 2022, and then again at $4,000 in November 2023. Again, people, fans, prospectors believe in Carmelo Hayes as an individual. They think that he is somebody with great potential, but WWE is just kind of wasting him at the moment. And again, this is not to say, like, oh, they're just burying him. It's like you got to just be featuring him, have him be putting on good matches, build him up along the way if you think that he is this, great prospect. Now he's also had some, sales with the gold out of 10 and shimmer out of three. $450 for a shimmer out of three in February 2023. And, kind of sales all over the place for the gold out of 10 in different, scales, as high as $511 for a PSA 10 in June of 2024. Now, let's do some of the takeaways here. This is kind of fascinating here. Out of the 29 wrestlers that we have looked at, 17 of them have been released. Three of them are still in the developmental territory of NXT and Evolve. So again, these are 2022 rookie cards here. So that's a lot of individuals who never once and never really made it to the main roster at all. Nine are currently on the main roster at this moment. And in my opinion, while we do have some individuals who are, featured on a routine basis here, it's pretty clear to me that Braun Breaker and Solo Sikoa are the clear winners when it comes to the 2022 men's rookie class in WWE Prism. You have Braun Breaker, somebody who, is probably going to be, main eventing multiple WrestleManias, and you have Solo, who has main evented, the second biggest premium live event a year in SummerSlam back in 2024, and you've had him, headline, major, premium live events like Survivor Series last year with War Games, a prominent role at WrestleMania 40. He's beaten John Cena clean, if my memory serves me correctly. I think he beat him clean at one of the premium live events in Saudi Arabia. So, these are two individuals who clearly WWE sees a lot of, promising years to come in. But I think we see that, if you are an individual who is buying the 2022 Prism set and you are, prospecting, you might have found that a lot of your cards that you bought, maybe you didn't spend a whole lot of money because some of those, lower tier wrestlers didn't really go for a lot of money back then. You didn't hit big. So Lastly, we see the gold out of tens and the black one of ones will always have value. I am somebody who is of the opinion that down the line there are going to be people who are going to be set collectors, which we might be talking about that at a later episode, where you might see people who are just trying to build and chase, the gold out of tens. I think that some of those cards, even of the wrestlers who have been released already, I think you might see an increase and a rise in value in those cards because, again, there's only 10 of the gold prisms that exist. And there's probably out of the 10, there's probably a couple of them that still may have never even been pulled and may have never even been discovered just yet. So I think that those cards will have a lot of value to them. All right. So we've covered all of the 29 wrestlers from the 2022 WWE Prism rookie class. Covered a lot of people. Which of these cards would you buy if you could? And which of these cards would you stay away from, particularly from the those who are still in WWE on the main roster? Be sure to like and subscribe to the One of One Cards channel on YouTube and Instagram. And everybody, you have a wonderful day.